Hello there.
Hello there, Star Wars fans. Welcome to Star Wars News and another Bad Batch breakdown. The episode's called Bounty Lost, and this is going to revolve around the bounty being lost. It's a pretty obvious title. So the episode opens up with the Bad Batch fleeing Bracca, but they are being pursued by Crosshair. Hunter does not want to leave the planet in case Omega is still around, but Echo talks some sense into him, and they hit the jump to hyperspace and escape. The episode cuts to Cad Bane's ship traveling through hyperspace, and his new ship's name is the Justifier, and it's currently of unknown origins. We don't know how Bane received it, considering his last ship was a Rogue-class starfighter that he received from Darth Sidious for stealing the holocron from the Jedi Temple. Now, the design for the Justifier was originally created to show in the cancelled Clone Wars arc, where Boba and Cad Bane dueled, but sadly this arc was cancelled. But later in this episode, we see that perhaps this event did take place. After Omega's capture, we see that she's locked up in a ray-shielded cell on his ship. A ray shield is what separated Obi-Wan from assisting Qui-Gon Jinn against Darth Maul and the Phantom Menace. After Omega and Cad Bane exchange pleasantries, we see that Cad Bane has a metal plate on the top of his head, which he did not have in the Clone Wars series. And this was the indication that the duel may have happened off-screen. Now, the cancelled scene was very similar to how Cad Bane and Hunter's duel was, and where Hunter missed, Boba Fett ended up shooting Cad Bane in the head, supposedly killing him. And as it seems that the duel did happen, I think we may get to consume this masterpiece of an arc, perhaps in the book of Boba Fett. Cad Bane contacts Lama Su to inform the Prime Minister he has the asset alive. So it almost seems like the bounty was for dead or alive.
I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold.
And once the transmission has ended, we cut to Kamino, where Lama Su sits with Nala Se and Tan Wei. Nala Se volunteers to exchange a payment for Omega, but Lama Su declares that Nala Se's attachment to Omega has jeopardized them enough. And I'm curious why Nala Se is so attached to Omega, even letting her wear what appears to be a family symbol of some sort. You would think a chief medical scientist wouldn't be so attached to a clone, especially since she played a role in covering up the inhibitor chips when they were discovered by Fives. Lama Se appoints his administrative aide, Tan Wei, to make the exchange. We first met Tan Wei in Episode 2 Attack of the Clones, and she was the Kaminoan to first greet Obi-Wan Kenobi,
Master Jedi, the Prime Minister is expecting you.
I'm expected.
and introduce him to Jango Fett and Boba Fett.
Is your father here? Yep.
Lama Su orders Nala Se to keep Omega in hiding on the sublevels of Tipoca and to terminate her once the genetic material is extracted. Back on the Havoc Marauder, the Bad Batch figure out Cad Bane was the bounty hunter that stole Omega. And while wondering why the Kaminoans were so persistent on hunting her, Tech tells the team that Omega has pure first-generation DNA, meaning that she's a direct clone to Jango Fett, and she does not have growth acceleration or any alterations to her DNA, which I would think she did have some changes to her DNA since she's a different gender than Jango Fett. We find out that there were only 2 clones total to have first-generation DNA, and the other one being named Alpha, also known as Boba Fett. So while Boba was the beginning of the clone creation, Omega is the last pure clone creation before Jango headed towards the light in the sky. Omega tricks Todo 360 into freeing her by offering to fix him, and the Justifier arrives on Borovio, which is the site of abandoned Kaminoan facilities. Now, unlike Kamino that is covered by water because of a great flood, these facilities float in the sky much like Cloud City on Bespin. Omega escapes Bane's ships and contacts the Bad Batch. Omega then gets recaptured by Bane, and her Rizcom is destroyed. Now during this chase, another ship approaches the abandoned facility, and shortly after we hear a blaster shot throughout the facility. Next we see Tunwei is the victim of the blaster shot, and Fennec Shan arrives to steal Bane's bounty. The 2 bounty hunters get in a shootout, and Omega and Fennec stumble upon cloning tubes of what appears to be failed experiments. Fennec finds Omega in the facility and tells her that Lama Su has plans for her that are way worse than what Fennec has. Omega drops a clone tube on Fennec, and when it breaks open, there seems to be a giant Kaminoan inside. Fennec and Bane get in another brawl, and throughout the fight, Fennec holds her own, with Bane seemingly underestimating her. Bane gets knocked over the side and has to use his jet boots to get back onto the facility, and all the while Fennec escapes. And during this time, Omega escapes on a flight pod, and during mid-flight, the pod malfunctions, and when all seems lost, the Bad Batch rescue her. Hunter tells Omega that the Kaminoans are after her because she's special. All the while, Fennec sabotages Bane's ship, and we find out that Nala Se ordered Tunwei's murder and Omega's rescue. And at this point, it seems like Nala Se doesn't believe in the path that Lama Su is taking the Kaminoan people. And perhaps she's trying to take over Lama Su's position, and maybe we'll see Nala Se deactivate the Jango Fett clone's inhibitor chips later on, which would be the beginning of the clone rebellion. rebellion. Omega thinks back to the test tube she saw at the facility and tells Hunter she doesn't want to end up as an experiment. And Hunter promises her that she'll never have to go back to Kamino. And I wonder if this could be foreshadowing the end of Kamino, explaining why we don't see Kaminoans in future Star Wars stories, or see the planet that played a pivotal part in the Clone Wars. Now with the show more than halfway through the season, I'm expecting it to really pick up, and I'm hoping to see Boba Fett soon and perhaps the beginning of the Clone Rebellion. And finding out that Omega is a direct genetic copy of Jango Fett has answered a lot of fans' questions, and this would make Boba and Omega brother and sister. So I'm really excited to see how this story plays out, and I still think that there is something more to Omega, because it's curious why the Kaminoans are being so secretive about who she is, and I still think we are going to find out that she's Force sensitive in later episodes, and they seem to have really toned down her doing unexplainable things in the last few episodes, after hinting at it in almost every episode at the beginning of the season. Now let me know in the comments if you believe that Omega is Force sensitive still, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure you like it, and if you enjoy Star Wars content from a lifelong Star Wars fan, make sure you hit that subscribe button. So long, and may the Force be with you.